Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. Happy first of the month. On the first day of each month, we review the book of the month. In order to be worthy of book of the month, a book has to meet a very simple criteria. It has to be impactful enough that it will either change your life or your perspective on the world. Now, whether it does or not, of course, is entirely up to you. If you consume it as a piece of entertainment, you're missing the point. But if you internalize its messages and make it part of you, you have a realistic shot at lasting growth. Our book this month is absolutely worthy of the book of the month. It's by Seth Godin. He is the author of 21 best-selling books. He comes from the tech industry like me, and some of his startups have done well. One of them was acquired by Yahoo, and he spent considerable time in Silicon Valley. Today, he lives in Westchester, New York, just outside New York City with his wife, Helene. And when this book was published, I knew right away I wanted to read it. I've been following Seth for, more than 15 years. Our book this month is called This is Strategy. And strategy is one of those words that is used so frequently in business, it's almost lost its meaning. Companies talk about strategic plans, strategic initiatives, strategic partnerships, strategic investments. In fact, we had a saying back in the day in the tech industry was that often the word strategic was used when you couldn't justify something through any other means. But in this book, Seth Godin strips away all of that confusion. Rather than presenting strategy as an academic discipline or a collection of management frameworks, he describes it as a way of thinking about systems, incentives, and long-term change. The result is a book that is less about business tactics and more about understanding how meaningful change actually occurs. One of the things that underpins the thesis for his book is the assertion that what is taught in school consists of questions where the answer is already known. Because if the teacher doesn't know the answer, they can't write a test and give you a mark. As a result, schools don't teach you how to answer questions where the answer is not known. In fact, part of the job will be to define the question. True underpinnings of strategy come from asking these types of questions. One of Seth's central arguments is that strategy is not a collection of clever ideas. Instead, it begins with understanding the system you're operating within. Every market, every organization or community has established rules. They have incentives, habits, and expectations. And if you fail to understand those forces, even the most creative ideas are likely to fail. That perspective immediately separates strategy from planning. Planning assumes you already know where you're going and simply need to organize the steps. Strategy asks a different question. What forces determine whether your plan has a chance of succeeding? That distinction alone makes the book worthwhile. Now, throughout the book, Seth emphasizes that successful strategies rarely attempt to convince anyone. Instead, they focus on serving a very specific group of people exceptionally well. Markets are not homogeneous. Different customers value different outcomes, and attempting to satisfy everyone usually results in satisfying nobody at all. That idea echoes one of Seth's recurring themes throughout his entire body of work. Businesses that create lasting value are the ones that deliberately choose who they're for and, equally important, who they're not. For entrepreneurs, that requires a lot of discipline. Saying no often becomes more important than saying yes. Another recurring theme is the importance of time. Seth argues that strategy is inherently long-term. Tactical decisions often produce immediate results, but strategy unfolds over years. Organizations frequently abandon good strategies because they expect immediate validation. That observation is particularly relevant in today's environment where quarterly earnings, social media metrics, and instant feedback dominate decision-making. Many worthwhile initiatives appear unsuccessful in the early stages because systems require time to adapt. The patience required to allow strategy to work could be one of the most valuable lessons in the book. Seth also challenges the common assumption that growth itself is the objective. Instead, he argues that organizations should determine first what kind of impact they want to create. Growth then could become a consequence of successfully delivering that value rather than the objective itself. That subtle distinction changes how decisions get made. If every decision is evaluated solely through the lens of short-term revenue, many opportunities that build durable competitive advantage could be rejected. If decisions are evaluated according to whether they strengthen the intended position within the market, entirely different choices emerge. And one of the book's greatest strengths is its accessibility. He avoids heavy business jargon and complicated analytical frameworks. Instead, he relies on stories, on analogies, and observations that make sophisticated strategic concepts understandable without oversimplifying them. The lessons are embedded in the story, and he doesn't hit you over the head with the lesson. He allows you to draw the conclusion yourself. If you're looking for financial models or a detailed implementation checklist, you might find this book lighter than expected. It's not a manual on corporate strategy in the traditional MBA sense of a textbook. It's a book about developing strategic thinking. Perhaps the most useful concept in the book is that strategy requires accepting constraints. Every business operates within limits of capital, talent, regulation, geography, customer expectation, and timing. And rather than viewing those as obstacles, he encourages readers to treat them as just parameters of the design. Ironically, constraints often produce better strategies because they force clearer choices. For real estate investors and developers, that lesson has practical applications. Every project operates within a framework, within zoning, financing conditions, construction costs, demographics, and political realities. Successful developers rarely win by fighting every constraint simultaneously. They identify the opportunities where the existing system naturally creates an advantage. That same thinking applies to capital raising, to many different aspects of the development process. Now, the book is not without its weaknesses. Some readers might wish for more detailed case studies demonstrating how the ideas translate into measurable business outcomes. Seth intentionally stays at the conceptual level, encouraging readers to think differently rather than prescribing formulas. Those looking for a step-by-step methodology might find this somewhat abstract, but the abstraction is also one of the book's strengths. He focuses on principles rather than techniques, lessons that remain applicable across industry and economic cycles. Ultimately, this is a book about making better decisions by first understanding the environment in which those decisions have to be made. Strategy is not a process of predicting or optimization or perfect planning. It's a process of choosing where to play, understanding how the systems behave, and then aligning actions with long-term objectives. This is not the most technical strategy book you're ever going to read, and nor does it attempt to be. Instead, it succeeds by encouraging a deeper way of thinking about competition, about markets, about incentives and change. For entrepreneurs and business owners, this is a highly thoughtful and relevant contribution to the conversation on strategy. As you think about that, go get a copy of This is Strategy by Seth Godin. Have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.